Namaste, everybody. Namaste. Namaste, if you're joining us online. So let's spend a few minutes just to come into the here and now. Become still, let the busyness of the day fade out. And you have many options here. You can focus on your breath. You can feel the weight of your body as it's pressing down. You can listen to the sounds around you. And all these ways of shifting your awareness bring you into the here and now, into the stillness that's already always there inside of you. Stillness beyond thought. And you may notice that the mind is still busy, still chattering, but the stillness is there even beyond that. If you try to sense that for a moment, the stillness that's always present beyond thought. So we can see that when we look into the environment, objects are around us everywhere. And these objects require space to appear. So you can be aware of the objects, or with a very slight change of awareness, you can be aware of the space in which the objects appear. And in the same way, thoughts and movement of the mind takes place in this stillness that is already always there. And with a slight shift of awareness, you can become aware of the stillness without needing to suppress the thoughts, which you can't do anyway. So the way we get stressed and unhappy and the way life gets to us is because we identify with the objects, we identify with thoughts, we identify with emotions that arise, and that identification causes us suffering. But that stillness, that spaciousness is always there. So with meditation, we're training the mind to make that shift out of the identification with objects like thoughts to the awareness of that stillness, that peace. It's that peace that passes all understanding. And it's always already there inside of us. And in this very same way, if we feel lonely or abandoned or disconnected, that love that we crave, that connectedness, that warmth, is always also inside of us. It's always in the heart. It's the very nature of the very core of our being. So with a shift of awareness, again, we can go into that heart of hearts, relax into it, and begin to get even a slight sense of that presence in the heart. And we can help this process by bringing the attention into the very center of the chest, the cave of the heart. Just mentally find that place and then imagine a brilliant point of light there. And if there's any tension or stress in the chest area, this cave of the heart is always interior to any stress or tension. And it's always completely pristine and free of any suffering whatsoever. It is the blissful presence of absolute love in you. Now, we don't experience that all at once, but by shifting awareness into the cave of the heart, we begin to train the mind to no longer run outward all the time, but to come into the place of peace, into the place of fullness, fullness of heart, the place of love inside of us. And then if the mind is still interfering with that process of resting in the heart, we can imagine that light to grow and to become a small sun inside the heart that is just radiant in its warmth and its love, its light. And so you have this image of a sun in the very core of your being. And perhaps you can see it, perhaps you can even feel this presence. And it's the nature of a sun to radiate. So that radiating happens completely effortlessly. It's this presence of this enormous capacity for love and for light, peace that is in the very core of your being. It radiates effortlessly, and that radiation, that warmth, that peace is received in your physical body, in your emotional body, and in your mind. And you can be simultaneously aware now of both that radiating sun in your heart and of receiving its warmth and light in the rest of your being. So when you are both the giver of love in the heart and the receiver of love in the rest of your being, you're the lover and the beloved in one. And it makes this giving and receiving of love absolutely safe. So you can fully give yourself to it. Relax into that profound inner healing, profound inner presence. Now it may be that you're not accustomed to realizing how great that potential of love, that presence of love is inside of you. So if it works for you, you can realize that this is the presence of God inside of you, inside of your innermost being, the presence of truth, the presence of love itself. And relax into that. Allow it to really touch you in profound ways. Allow it to heal everything that needs to be healed, and shed light into all the places of darkness, all the places of fear. And since this experience of internal love is absolutely safe, I invite you to open a place inside of you that perhaps was shut down by fear, a place that was just appeared too difficult or too threatening to touch. Allow this great love, this great light in your heart to enter that place and to dispel the darkness there, to dispel the fear there. So you can see that the most potent medicine for all that causes you suffering, all the fears, all the darkness in your life, all those things that you keep hidden and stashed away and don't want to touch, the medicine for that is already inside of you. It's in the very core of your being. And we simply need to connect these 2 points, the heart and that place of the pain or fear. And allow that radiance of the heart, the essence of the heart, to flow into that place of pain and to be received there fully. And so I want to invite you to set a powerful intention. The intention to return to the heart again and again, and to train the mind to receive this essence of the heart and to allow it to flow into all parts of your being, to suffuse your whole existence, your life, your relationships. For it is the greatest happiness to live out of the open heart, to live out of the very core of your being, and it is effortless. Effort is in the mind. Effortlessness, naturalness, authenticity, and deep, abiding happiness and peace are in the heart. And you don't need to have a reason or an occasion or a problem to go to the heart. You just need to remember. You can do it at any moment when you remember, until it becomes your natural way of life, the natural way of being, to live in the love and the peace of your being. And so with this awareness of the possibility of living out of the open heart more and more every day, take a deep breath in and exhale. Inhale again. And relax. So we have some newcomers to HeartSourcing online today. So I'd just like to go over some of the principles of HeartSourcing and the different main parts of it. HeartSourcing, of course, leads us back into the very core of our being. And it's always absolutely astounding to me that we all search for happiness, we search for love, and we continuously search for it in outer things. And the outer things are fine when they come, but we need to know that they're always going to go again. That nothing is stable in the outer world. Everything comes and goes. Everything that has a beginning has an end. But here in the very core of our being, there's a timeless source of profound and abiding love. And when you think that all the beings who have ever been happy, who have ever loved, who have ever experienced peace, how has that come to them? It has arisen from inside of them, from inside of their heart. Perhaps in response to an external situation, yes, of course. But the external situation doesn't give us the love or the peace. We love someone, but that love doesn't come from that person inside to us. So it arises inside of us, and it's to me the greatest secret that human beings have not known, of the source of that which we have always sought for thousands and thousands of years, in the places where we can't ultimately find it. So we come into the heart and we train the mind to keep coming back for no reason other than this is the source of happiness. And then we recognize that there are some obstacles or obstructions that are around the heart, and that often make it hard for us to live out of the heart, to get into that place, even though we can always sneak through some cracks in the armoring that the heart may have. And these layers of obstacles are primarily our emotions, negative emotions, and stressful thoughts. So we work with two primary skills. One is called open attention, or sometimes called presence, where we identify the body sensations caused by negative emotions. So if we have anger or fear or shame or loneliness or any stressful emotion, we can identify where we feel that in our physical body. There'll be some places in the body where there's tension that represents that emotion. And then in a very simple process, we bring our attention into that place. So let's say I have fear and it's like a lump in my throat. I bring my mental attention into that fear. Now what we usually do is we distract ourselves, we run away from it, we don't want to feel it, we do anything not to go there. And that may have the result that for a while, after a while we don't feel it anymore, but it doesn't go away, it stays inside of us, it simply gets submerged, it becomes subconscious. And then these repressed emotions become a big problem after a while. And they're sort of the nourishment for all our unhappiness, all our problems in life, all our conflicts in relationship and so on. For which we of course then tend to blame the outer world. But ask yourself, who is unhappy? Where does this unhappiness, this stress happen? It happens inside of you, and I'm telling you how it happens, the mechanism of it. So when we bring attention into this lump of fear here in the throat, And just simply that, we just bring the attention, we feel it deeply. Now, sometimes emotions may be threatening and very powerful, and it takes some time to slide our way into them. So we don't need to do it all at once. But we bring the attention into that place of the sensation of the emotion. And with time and repeated practice, it dissolves not only the emotion of the moment, but the tendency to repeat this emotion, the habit of falling into that same emotion, into that same problem again and again. So that in a nutshell is open attention. And then we have the stressful mind. And for the stressful mind, we have two primary ways. One is coming into stillness, relaxing into that stillness that's already always there underneath all the mental noise. And the classical meditation practices are extremely helpful there. But we also have specific thoughts, specific belief systems or complexes in our minds, specific old traumas perhaps, or old issues that we have with somebody or something. Or it could be a complex of fear of the future, anxiety of the future. So when we have those, we can use a fabulous practice called the work of Byron Katie. It's a way to questioning the mind, examining the mind with the mind. And it allows these complexes of thought, these conflicts, these judgments to dissolve like darkness dissolves when you shine the light into it. It's a simple process that can be learned in 20 or 30 minutes. Children can do it. And in my own personal experience, I was a meditator for about 30 years when I came across this way of questioning the mind with the mind. And it was a revelation because I realized that there was quite a few very stressful thoughts or thought complexes in my mind that had survived meditation perfectly intact. But they could not survive this questioning of the mind with the mind. So these are the primary, there's more to heart sourcing, but these are the primary skills that we use. And they allow us to dissipate everything that makes us unhappy and live out of the very core of our being, which is happiness and peace and love itself. And with that, what happens is our idea of who we are goes through a profound shift, where before we identify with our personality and the particular history and the projections into the future, the plans we have. We identify with that. We identify, in other words, with everything about us that will come to an end when we die. So if something comes to an end, can it be you? Well, if you think that that's all you are, perhaps, but then you probably wouldn't be listening to this. So you have a sense that there's something different about you, something timeless, something eternal. And that can be accessed in the heart at the cost of becoming free of our stressful thoughts and emotions. And with that, behaviors that don't work for us. Once the thoughts are no longer there and the emotions that drive the behaviors will go by themselves. So that is heart sourcing in a nutshell, and pulls together some of the most effective techniques that are available today that have deep and ancient roots in the ancient wisdom of India, the ancient wisdom of all the great religions, the mystical parts of those religions, not the dogma parts. some of that knowledge has been available in all parts of the world in some way or form. But today we live in an astounding time where the wisdom traditions from all over the world are at our fingertips. And we have now new teachers that can teach us how to apply this ancient wisdom, the wisdom of our own already present enlightenment. How we can apply this wisdom in ways that are appropriate for our minds today in the 21st century. Because our minds are different than they were 2,000 years ago. So we can use these skills and this wisdom to set ourselves free and to come to know who we truly are, which is beyond our imagination. There's nothing in your past experience, except perhaps moments of very elevated consciousness that give you a glimpse of what you're truly all about. But other than that, in our day-to-day experience, there's nothing really there that shows us who we truly are, that shows us that in us is absolutely a source of timeless happiness, timeless profound bliss, complete love. And don't take my word for that, because that's not going to help you at all. Learn these skills. I invite you to that. And practice. And see what happens. It's only your own experience that counts. So if you have a thirst for happiness, a yearning for enlightenment, by whatever name, you're invited to this way of finding yourself and finding in you qualities and experiences that will not be lost when the body and the personality come to an end. So now, if you've been on this broadcast for a while, you know, lately I've been using some quotes or some reading from a contemporary sage called Nisargadatta Maharaj. And I would like to take a little bit of his text again and see what it does for us. This is from his book called I Am That. And he says, he speaks about the fact that our mind has been conditioned in a way that is not working for us. It's been conditioned to evaluate things and to acquire them. Now that goes back to our basic insecurity, basic unhappiness that we all feel. And in childhood, often that has to do with something missing, something isn't there. Maybe your mother isn't there, maybe you're hungry or thirsty. And the idea comes that when I get what I'm missing, I'll be happy, I'll be okay. So if we evaluate what we want and then we go about trying to get it. And then at one point we get this idea of enlightenment in some way or another. And the ego mind says, oh, this is great. That sounds like it's the most important thing or the most valuable thing to acquire. And then we get into meditation and into yoga, and we're doing all kinds of different things. And we may not be fully conscious of that, but in the background of that is this acquisition mindset. We're trying to get something as though we don't have it yet. And that is a misunderstanding. That's a wrong view when it comes to how to get enlightened. That's why we like to use words like awakening. When you awaken, It's not a process of acquisition. You're not getting anything. You're just awakening. You're opening your eyes in a new consciousness. Right? So he's talking about this mindset of acquisition. And he said, this mind will not admit that the incomparable and unobtainable are waiting timelessly within your own heart for recognition. The unobtainable. You cannot obtain what you already are. So we have to understand that enlightenment is unobtainable. And of course, we can awaken to it. And how does that happen? It happens by realizing that we already have it. By shedding that which we don't need. For instance, stressful thoughts, painful emotions, behaviors that don't work for us, and an idea of who we think we are that is just not true. So this mindset of acquisition will not admit that the incomparable and unobtainable are waiting timelessly within our own heart for recognition. All you have to do, little thing, all you have to do is to abandon all memories and expectations. That's an interesting statement. All you have to do, easy thing, just abandon all memories and expectations, right? Now, that may not seem like an easy thing for us because we live in memories and expectations almost all the time, except when we're sleeping. Memories, our storehouse of what happened and what we think we know and so on, right? Expectations are projection into the future. Who we think we're going to be and what's going to make us safe and all that. So, enlightenment is easy. Just abandon all memories and expectations. But when you think of it, that's exactly what we're doing with heart sourcing, isn't it? All your thoughts, all your stressful thoughts are based on memories. Now we have positive thoughts too, like I love you or something like this, and you know what? There's no problem with those. We get to keep them. But it's the stressful ones. Stressful ones go back to negative memories and then churn out negative expectations in the future. Sense of being not safe, being alone, all of that. So when we get increasingly free of the corroding effects of negative memories, we will less and less project stressful events into the future. And we can then live increasingly in peace in the here and now, which is already always there. So here's proof right there that it's not all that hard to abandon all memories and expectations because we're already always living in the here and now, whether we know it or not. And it's only when we jump for the stressful thought or the emotion and identify with it that we become unhappy and we lose the moment. And he says, just keep yourself ready in utter nakedness and nothingness. So nakedness and nothingness is what we experience when we're fully in the here and now. You don't know who you are. You don't have a concept of where you were and where you're going to be. You're just present. This nakedness and nothingness is the easiest state you can imagine. The ego is scared of it. The ego wants to have something to do, somebody to be all the time. But who are you? The ego or your true self? So there is this battle going on between the ego and the true self. The true self just waits, it's just there, but the ego wants to retain control. But the stronger the self gets, the true self gets, the more serious we are about this awakening process, the more easily it will happen. And then the question I asked, who is to do the abandoning of memories and expectations? And he says, God will do it. Don't worry about it. God will do it. Just see the need of being abandoned. Just see the need of being abandoned, of having God abandon your memories and expectations, all the ways you live in the past and future. So in other words, turn to that higher power, that higher presence. And where do we find that? Right here. So that presence in the heart, which is what he calls God, will do it. And every time you go into the heart, you evoke it. You make your awareness of it stronger. Don't resist. Don't hold on to the person you take yourself to be. Body, memories, expectations. Don't hold on to them. Because you imagine yourself to be a person, you take the jnani, that's an Indian word, means the sage, the enlightened one. You take the enlightened person to be a person too, only somewhat different, better informed and more powerful. You may say that he is eternally conscious and happy, but it is far from expressing the truth. Don't trust definitions and descriptions. They are grossly misleading. In other words, the enlightened person is no other than you are in the very core of your being. He's just somebody who's no longer run by their stressful thoughts and emotions, who's no longer in the delusion of being the body. The enlightened being is a being who's free. And that freedom is already 100% inside of our own heart. And it's this process of peeling away everything that is not true. All the stressful thoughts and emotions, all the memories, all the expectations, peeling it away until all that's left is what we already and always are. You see how this is very different from the acquisition mindset? And it's important to train the mind to get out of this acquisition mindset, because as long as we have that, we're always running after something, whether it's an external thing or a new experience or whatever, but we're missing the mark. The mark is to become nobody. And he actually says that as we go on. The questioner says, unless I'm told what to do and how to do it, I feel lost. And Maharaj answers, by all means, do feel lost. As long as you feel competent and confident, reality is beyond your reach. Who is competent and confident? The ego. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be competent and confident in the realms for which the ego is designed, which is your day-to-day life, your job, you know, how to do the dishes. I mean, yeah, we're competent and confident. We're confident when we go to sleep that we're going to wake up the next day. That confidence is fine. But when it comes to the awakening process, to the true yearning of the soul, to be not to have that feeling of competence, of I know, I can do it. Well, do you really know? Do you really know what to do? No. As he says, God will do it. You just, someplace inside of you open yourself to that process of being liberated. But it's not like, I'm going to liberate myself. Unless you accept inner adventure as a way of life, discovery will not come to you. I love this expression. Unless you accept inner adventure as a way of life. The greatest adventure, there's like a lot of people who are saying, oh, there is no longer any adventures left on this planet because people have been to the North Pole and the South Pole and the highest mountains and the lowest spots in the ocean. Hello, that's all just about the physical universe, which is tiny compared to the inner universe, the inner reality. So this great adventure, the adventure, it's probably a good reason why we're running out of external adventures. Of course, now we have to go into outer space, of course, and squander our capacities here to make life really worthwhile, to feed everyone and to make life for us humans here what it could be if we would use our resources for it. No, now we have to find adventure in outer space. And I'm not against it, it's just what happens, But the real adventure is in inner space. The real adventure is to fight the demons in your mind and win that battle that is the battle of light over darkness in you. And find the timeless presence in the heart. And then the questioner asks, discovery of what? And Maharaj says, of the center of your being, which is free of all directions, all means and ends. The center of your being, have you heard that before? The heart, what we call the heart. Which is free of all means and ends. There's nothing to do here. When you're here, you're complete. And then the questioner asks, the questioner gets the idea, and he thinks, oh, this must mean be all, know all, and have all. And Maharaji says, be nothing, know nothing, have nothing. This is the only life worth living, the only happiness worth having. So here he comes back to that sense of emptiness, of not knowing, of not having. Not having in terms of acquisitions, in terms of stuff, in terms of competence, in terms of knowledge. But being empty. Empty of the small self and completely filled with the essence of the heart. So in some way, all the sages of the past, the great sages, have said the same stuff, talked about the same things, highlighted from this direction or that direction, readjusted the language of it to the time in which they spoke. And now we have a different time again. Slightly different skills, different capacities, different mindset that we have today. We live in a very different world from even our grandparents. And we have technology that allows us to crack open this cage in which the heart has been locked. And I invite you to that. I invite you to this hunger for freedom and to act from that hunger, not just to read another book and another book and another book, but to act, to practice that freedom. I was going through some old photographs today and I found a bunch of photographs of my parents' travels. They traveled through Europe for several years when they were retired. And it was all great experiences. And I looked at all these pictures and I'm saying, I wonder what they really got out of it. And it's not that it was wrong, it was their path. It was their outer adventure. But the outer adventures that we can go on are limitless. And they don't really have a destination. They don't have an ending point. So then you get experience and you get enriched in the ways of the personality, and then the personality dies. Both of my parents are no longer alive, and I'm just looking at those pictures saying, what's left of that? I don't know that there's anything left. Maybe an essence of their experience. So what is it that is important to you? You're going for more and more external experience. We have plenty of that every day, without even looking for it. Or are you going to go on that real adventure, the adventure on the longest journey known in human life, human existence, which is the journey from the head to the heart? And are you going to find those limitless riches that are waiting for you in your heart? Unheard of, limitless, beyond description, but available to your experience. By peeling away everything that in the end may be exciting, may be pleasurable, but in the end has very little value. Because pleasure always leads to pain, and we run away from pain back into pleasure, back and forth like a pendulum. Back and forth, pain and pleasure. Come to the fulcrum, the place where the pendulum hangs, and that is the heart. A place that doesn't move, a place that is free, a place that is filled with peace, that is peace itself. So that's my invitation to you. You know that place in you that yearns for that. Understand that it is not far away. It is not far away. Although we are conditioned to live in a way where we're constantly busy with external things. You can find a little bit of time in each day to retrain, to reset the mind's focus and find that which is truly of invaluable value. And that is the essence of your heart, the essence of love inside of you, the essence of peace. So I leave you with that today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming. Namaste.